When I was still married to my military husband, he was overseas, and I moved our daughters and myself to our follow-on duty station. I rented a 100-plus-year-old house. It was wonderful, out in a rural area with a huge yard. The only problem was that it had mysterious happenings. One of the things that I soon learned happened regularly was the knocker. The basement of the house was very dark and damp. My washer, dryer and freezer were in the basement, so I did have to go down into it quite often. I never allowed my 2 young children down there due to the dark and dampness. The only entrance to the basement was a door located in the kitchen. It happened to be right next to the back door, which was also in the kitchen. Not long after we moved in, I heard knocking on the back door. Thinking it must be a neighbor, I went to answer it. As I approached the door, I realized it wasn't the back door. It was the basement door. I knew my children were in the living room and couldn't figure out who would be in my basement. I opened the door to no one. This occurred regularly. At least once a week, I heard the knocker. The neighbors and owner of the home knew nothing about it. I also hung a photo of my husband and me up on the wall by the front door. Many, many mornings, I came in to find it, either hanging upside down or lying on the floor beneath one of the chairs or sofa. I would replace the photo and leave it at that. My parents came to visit one weekend. We were sitting in the living room and suddenly we heard knocking on the back door. I tried to ignore it, but my very practical mother insisted on answering the door. I followed her to the door, insisting she just ignore it. She thought I was being rude. Then she opened the door. Realizing there was no one there, she stalked back into the living room, picked up her purse, and as she was going out the door said, "Mel, I'll be in the car." She drove back to her home and refused to ever come back. Another time, after my husband returned from overseas, we had guests and were sitting in the living room. Suddenly the husband stopped talking and stared at the wall next to the front door. He said, "Susan, get the baby. It's time to go home." We followed his stare to the front door and watched as the photo of my husband and myself was slowly turning upside down. There were other strange occurrences, and it soon became apparent that whatever it was, it did not like my husband at all. If he upset me or the children in any way, things picked up and something bad happened to him. One day, following an argument, he left to drive to a local Kmart. He called me from the store to let me know that he just had an accident with his truck. The left rear wheel came off during the drive, and he crashed into a tree. He kept apologizing for the argument we were having when he left home. He used to call this entity Hardy. It followed us to every new base we moved into, only left when I divorced him.